What's the word? What's the word?
That's right. It's the bees of boxing, and we are introducing a new bee by the looks of it. It's the broccoli of boxing. Steve Swift holding a gigantic, clearly no GMO involved broccoli from across the pond. I understand the significance, but I have a question for you. Are there tariffs on broccoli? And if so, how much are said tariffs on a head of broccoli right now, Steve Swift?
I don't know of any tariffs on broccoli at the moment. This just arrived in the room, and I don't know why. Well,
Okay.
I do know why. I mean, it's to be eaten.
Okay.
It's not. It won't be eaten by me because I can't stand the blooming stuff. But for me, a vegetable is chocolate. It should be renamed. There are no tariffs on this, and this is probably about £300 sterling because it's a lovely head of broccoli, something like that. But I don't know why it's here. I just picked it up because it's here.
Maybe it's not there at all. Maybe it's not really there, Steve. Maybe it's AI. And speaking of AI, you got to be very careful these days because it looks like your good friend, Jake Paul, is extremely upset at everybody over this whole AI thing. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on today. We're also going to talk about a fantastic victory by one Boots Ennis this past weekend. And it really puts him into a conversation as to who's next for Boots, who can beat Boots. And Boots is just a wonderful name to have on the bees of boxing. It's another bee, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of bees, it looks like your other bestie, your other countryman, I don't know if there's an O in that or not, but it looks like Eddie Hearn has put Dana on yet another bee blast. He is not happy with these guys over at Zuffa Boxing, and we're going to get into that one as well. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, first and foremost, thank you all to those of you that are listening to this on all of your podcast providers, iHeartRadio, Apple Tunes, Spotify, Podbean, if you want to do all of that there. If you, go check it out, subscribe, do all of that stuff. If you're watching it on YouTube, thank you so much. Leave us a comment. Tell us how silly we look. Tell us if you like broccoli. I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be a regular thing. Maybe broccoli will be a character on this. Maybe broccoli will start doing interviews with boxers. I don't know. Silly things have happened in 2025. Could you imagine talking to a head of broccoli? If you're like, hey, Tyson Fury, we're going to do this interview and you're going to have to talk to this head of broccoli. It'd probably be the best conversation he's ever had. Steve Swift, how in the hell are you doing, brother?
I'm all right, thank you. A little indigestion, but I'm okay. Windy pops, but I'm okay. I mean, I may be burping and belching and probably farting during this podcast, but that's just the way I am. Oh, there you are. Dyspepsia.
I mean, you can take a Zantac, I hear. Or
you can, but we don't have that over here.
What do you mean you don't have that over there?
We have things like Rennies, which are like a, I don't know if a Zantac is you just swallow it whole, because a Rennie it's a chalky thing.
Yeah, like an antacid.
An antacid.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. An antacid. I could take one of those, but I have stronger, because I'm so ill, I have stronger indigestion tablets, which aren't working.
We've all been there as we get to be a certain age, Steve. I've been there myself. I have a prescription for Pantaloc that I have to take on a daily basis because of acid reflux that I get. It's just due to the stress of my life and getting old and being that much more awesome. You know what avoids all of those things from happening, though, Steve? Don't be pissed off about stuff, because stress and being angry, I mean, it can lead to some very bad things if you're not careful. So you got to get that stuff under control, my friend.
First of all, can I be righteously indignant rather than angry? Can I do this? Can I do that?
Yes. And when you do that, you look exactly like Eddie Hearn. Let me just say right now, look at that. It's uncanny. It's uncanny. The likeness.
Eddie Hearn's a good-looking gentleman. I can't be looking like Eddie Hearn. There's no way. He's not happy though. Although the thing is he? Because I can't sodding well work out whether this is all a work or not.
And therein lies the question. Am I right? Because when you listen to the words that Eddie says, for those of you that don't know, let's talk about it a little bit here. Eddie Hearn has gone out and said that he is not happy with Zuffa boxing coming in, which is a boxing league, so to speak. He's not happy about it because they do real boxing and they're transparent, and he doesn't think the Ali Act should be changed. And he thinks that all of the pays that they do over in Zuffa for the UFC and whatnot are abysmal. And he has all of these thoughts on stuff like that, which are wild. First of all, because he's not the one getting paid by Zuffa, so I don't know what he's upset about, unless, of course, one of two things, Steve. Unless he is very upset and he thinks that this is going to take a large piece of his pie, or this whole thing's a friggin' work. Because there's going to come a time, because think about this. What is Eddie Hearn's job? What is it?
He's a looker after. He's a promoter, but he's a manager as well. So he's a jack of all trades in some way.
But he doesn't own anything.
No.
Right? He doesn't own a TV station. He doesn't own a company, a league. He doesn't own a promotion. Although you can say Matchroom Boxing, it's it is what it is, but it's a promotional house. It's not a show promotion. So he doesn't really have anything there. So his job is to do what's right for his fighters, for the fighters that he has under contract, that he has a contract to promote. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter if he's promoting them on Showtime. Doesn't matter if he's promoting them on HBO. Doesn't matter if he's promoting them on DAZN. It doesn't matter where he's promoting them, or if he's got to do business with other companies like Golden Boy, with the old man himself, right? If he has to do all of these deals, that's not the thing. So why is he so upset about Zuffa boxing, Steve? Why?
I don't know if he is. I mean, the thing he tends to be kind of not doorstepped, but he's got certain people that he likes to work with. So the stomping ground, is someone that he likes to talk to, and he tends to range, across different boxing items, and in a way, there's saying things to. I'm not saying he's doing this, but it's content, isn't it? We're doing it now. It's content. So when he says, who's going to fight for a Zuffa belt? Who's going to fight for a, all that? He doesn't do it like that. He doesn't do that, obviously. What he might do, maybe at home with Barry, he does. All right, Barry. All right, Barry. All right, Dave. Maybe he does that, and he doesn't sound like that. But apart from that, it's a really close impression. I think. I don't know whether he's because he's palling up with Dana. I mean, he said, "I really like Dana. We're good mates. However, I want to work with him, but against him, if you like." But they've actually, I mean, they've kind of palled up to a certain extent. So I don't know where all this is. I don't know whether it's a bit of roll up, because they are going to have to work with him anyway. So I think it's probably just a bit of a gag, really, or a bit of a work. Just have a bit of fun, because I don't think we don't know what's going to happen, do we? So you can have a good time before things happen.
Well, what we do know is going to happen is that Zuffa Boxing has already secured a spot with Paramount, which also means that CBS is involved because they're the owners, which means that there's a potential to have fights on CBS now with Zuffa. I mean, this is the next stage. UFC, boxing, the whole thing. CBS, largest broadcasters out there. This is what they're looking for. So if you're here sitting here telling me that Eddie Hearn isn't going to play nice to get, you know, to get Boots and Terrence Crawford on that card somehow, I'm going to call BS all day long. You know what I mean? So the other part of it is Eddie starts talking about fighter pay and the Ali Act and how his fighters, it's very transparent, what his fighters should be paid, and what Zuffa pays their fighters is abysmal and whatnot. And I want to have this conversation with you, Steve, because I don't understand why this is happening. And I'm going to put this out to you. There's no doubt about it. There's fighters out there that make way more money at the top, like a Terrence Crawford or a Tyson Fury, your favorite buddy, right? With $100 million fight. That has yet to be seen in the UFC. There's no doubt about that. But those are anomalies. Let's face facts. Explain to me why Eddie Hearn, a guy who promotes a plethora of fighters, how he can say stuff like this when, if you're telling me that Lewis Crocker, a guy that Eddie Hearn promotes, who makes $300,000 to $400,000 a fight, that's less than Charles Oliveira just got paid to fight in the UFC for a fight night, no pay-per-view points, nothing like that. And Charles Oliveira is not the biggest star in the UFC. So where's this argument? Because yes, there's obviously people in the UFC that make a lot less. You sign on for a 10 and 10. 10 if you win, 10 if you tend to show up. But there's also a lot of boxers out there that are lucky to make 10 and 10. Why is there always going to be this argument? Explain to me and go.
Well, he's, in a way, he is, because the chips haven't fallen yet, so we don't know what it looks like. He's doing what he needs to do. By the way, Frank Warren very quiet at the moment. This is exactly what happens with Frank. He's smooth. So he's looking on, and that they work together now to a certain extent, and what everyone's saying that Turkey Al Sheikh didn't make them work together, but created that bond. So they are very different in a way. He is the front man, Eddie Hearn, and he will throw loads of things out there. So he's telling you how it might work in all sorts of different ways. He has those boxers and he's got a lot of boxers who might pitch into a mid-card deal, but he's also got Ben Whittaker now, all of that. And he's got AJ, of course. And we do know that the new boxing Zuffa situation, the project, as I call it, will need those big fights. So he is kind of all in with, you need those big fights. There is no way whether it's legends or whether it's active boxers seeking titles, you're going to need those fights, and you're going to need me. So I think he can play.
But are they? And is that what the problem is? Is a guy like Eddie Hearn in fear of losing his spot? Because right now there's a direct line to the fighter with Eddie. And if they want to go fight over on one of these Zuffa cards on Paramount or on CBS, is that direct line, or is Eddie going to have to start renegotiating his contracts somehow, some way? And that's what he's worried about, because there's no need for the middleman. Eddie becomes the middleman in those instances. The promoter in that instance becomes the middleman, does he not?
Yes, but everybody needs, every entourage needs a Um, I'm not going to call him a joker or a fool. That's a different matter entirely. And Eddie Hearn definitely is not that. But a hype man that you have around. Now, Dana White's not that kind of hype man. Never has been. And neither is Turkey Al Sheikh, not that hype man. Never has been, can't be allowed to be. So you're going to need a hype man. And him in the middle of that, doing the Don King, don't pull a face, Don King only in America stuff, you know, all of that is something maybe that Eddie Hearn can do. Get in the middle of that and mess it around a bit and say, isn't this fun? Are we having a good time? Because I can make you laugh and I can create column inches. And that Tidster is what he's doing at the moment. You know, when I look at boxing news, it's all Eddie Hearn. Because not all of it, but most of it. I mean, 70% of it is because he's always there using his social media. So if you need a hype man, that will be Eddie Hearn. He can be a bit more than a hype man. So maybe that's what he's pushing for.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised, and it would give Dana and His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh to kind of maintain, what's going on from 5,000 feet above. And they can just kind of look down and have all of these promoters kind of dancing for them. All of these guys that were sitting around, shit talking the whole thing from the get-go. And they're like, but you don't understand. You're a plebe in the world as a promoter at this point because we have the TV deal. If you don't like what we have to offer, go get your own TV deal. Now, TV deals are aplenty, apparently. And I will say it again. I am looking so forward to the fact that the British heavyweight title is being represented again. When you think about all of the greats that have ever had the British heavyweight title, Lennox Lewis, of course, one of the greatest of all greats. And then your buddy, of course, Tyson, what's his face? He has also had it. So, I mean, listen, Boxer back on BBC, October 25th, Fraser Clark, Jamie TKV. It's going to be a hell of a fight. We've seen some of the undercard, some of the fights that are on the undercard. It's close to you. Let's hope that maybe we can reach out and get you involved in there somehow, maybe ring announcing, maybe fighting, maybe a corner man, maybe you kind of step in. We'll get you a fight. What do you think?
Yeah, the spit bucket is made for me. That's it should be on my CV. Yes, I would. Yes, that would be lovely. And the thing is that, as I say, the BBC holds an enormous cachet, and here in Britain, we're certain people are a bit sick of it because they've had it for the whole of their lives. But in other countries, it holds an enormous place, and it's serious stuff. It's not Johnny come lately cable TV. It isn't. It isn't Sky, and it isn't BT. And I'm not making any nasty denigration of those two. I'm saying that we had, when I was growing up, 3 channels: BBC One, BBC Two, ITV with commercials, and then we got Channel 4 in 1982, and now we have Channel 5. So that's all we've got free to air. You've got your cable on top of that, but that's all we have. So BBC has an enormous place for me growing up. Those kind of programs I watched, always on BBC, all of that, the stuff I learnt, the documentaries, always on BBC, great films. BBC is a big thing, and the sports still, match of the day, soccer, football, still there on a Saturday night, still enormous amounts of viewing figures. And Ben Shalom has done something extraordinary by thinking in a different way.
I hope that he has his hands or can get all of the old footage. I can't wait to see the package that they put together at the beginning of this show, right out the gate. You know what I mean? To just commemorate all of the history of the British boxing scene and being on, with BBC and the British heavyweight title that they're fighting for again tonight. And I look forward to seeing all of that stuff.
Do you know what will be lovely? And people talk about and they say, well, he hasn't got that many dates and all of that. But if he did a deal, and you wouldn't put it past him because he's good at the deal, it seems to me, if he's got a deal for some of that footage, then he might be able to put together old British boxing shows, Ken Buchanan and Henry Cooper and Alan Boom Boom Minter, and all of that would be extra. Charlie Magri, all of those would be amazing. Just to do an hour of that every Thursday, Friday night, that would bring them in, and he'd get good figures for that. So if there is that, I would love that part of it too.
Well, let's hope they're all listening. I'm sure that they are, and let's hope that they everything goes well for them. One thing I do want to talk about, as well as making a comeback, we've seen a few of them coming up. I don't know, this one kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but Danny Garcia is making a comeback, it looks like, and kudos to him for being able to come back. It's been a minute. We all know about the past issues that Danny has had, and he's been very open about battling his demons, his mental health stuff, and he's a very, very big advocate of it. And then we almost had another comeback, it looks like, because we had Keith Thurman, who had a bit of a tune-up fight earlier in the year. I mean, let's face facts. But outside of that, it'd been 2-3 years since he had been in the ring, and he had set himself up with Sebastian Fundora. That a lot of people were sitting there going, "How the hell did Keith Thurman skip the line on everything?" Because you have a lot of guys out there. And Fundora now, that fight is not happening because he's injured his hand. With no surprise, he doesn't really have a wrist holding that thing. I don't understand how the guy he literally has, he's built like a wind chime that will kick the living tar out of you. There's nothing you can do about it. I think Street Fighter had a character named Dalsim who was built very similar to this entire thing. So there's interim champions because of these kinds of situations where it puts a fighter out. And it looks like Virgil Ortiz Jr. is an interim champion for the WBC. And it looks like the WBA champion, Abbas Baru. And then you've got the IBF champion in Bakram Murtazilov. And then you got Xander Zayas, who's, also a champion. But then you've recently got a gentleman who stood in there and won himself an interim championship in one Mr. Jerome Boots Ennis. And I don't know if you watched this fight or not, Steve. Or as I like to say, this meme, because that's really how long this fight lasted. I don't care about spoiler alerts because if you didn't see it, well, go back and see it. It's literally less than 2 minutes of your life that you'll not regret. Boots went out like he literally either had some place to be or he had to poop. This is what I'm guessing because he was spending no time in that ring with Lemos on that night. Did you get to see this? What did you think of Boots Ennis? And then I have another question for you following that up.
I did. And I think later on, he did say, I had to poo. And I think that's one of the reasons why he said, he said that he had to nip one off later on. That's what he said. I had to go and nip one off, he said. Like that, just like that. It was extraordinary. And his ring walk was about 3 or 4 times as long as the actual fight. His opponent, the thing is that I picked up a little bit of, was it DAZN footage or some footage where they heard that Boots was sparring with Canelo and said, hey, Canelo's taught him how to lose. And I thought, who's saying that? Because he's not saying it, but who's saying it? Is that his trainer? So I Googled it. I thought, because I don't quite know who his trainer is. There he is. No official trainer. I just thought, right, there's no name for a trainer. I'm a bit concerned.
Alan Smithy. That's who the trainer was. Alan Smithy, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a fucking collective. Who's gonna? Well, I'll just do a bit of ring work with you, and then you can go and clean out the toilets with him.
Well, when your home gym is listed as YMCA, uh, I don't know how much you're really getting there.
There's a thing in acting when you've got an advert in one of the trade magazines, and in England, what you say is no sole agent. That means you haven't got a fucking agent. If no sole agent, there isn't an agent. And I just thought, I think this is quite a DIY situation that the gentleman finds himself in.
Well, here's the thing. Then you got to ask yourself. I mean, by all means, Boots went out there and did exactly what he was supposed to do. This is what we've been wanting from him. Everybody was like, oh my God. So you handpick a guy who you put in front of him and he annihilates him in no fashion whatsoever. Boom, done, finished. Now you have to ask yourself, what's next for Boots? Because we know what they really want. What they really want is they think that Boots is going to be the guy, and Eddie Hearn's talking about it already. He's the guy to face Crawford. He's the guy to beat Crawford. Bro, for one, you can go back. I love me some Boots Ennis, and I've said he's a fantastic boxer, but you're not jumping the line that far without there being some kind of hold on a second here, because those names that I just mentioned to you before, Xander Zayas, Sebastian Fundora, Myrtle Azayev, Virgil Ortiz Jr., Baru, like these are all guys that are belt holders in that weight class that he is now in. If he thinks he's going to chase that to try to get the money, he's going to have to go through one of these, because this is also, if you notice, when I said all of these names, all of these are different belt holders. There's no unification yet. You're going to have to unify these things before a fight with Terrence Crawford is even going to come close to happening. So you've got to have some guys that are willing to go out there and do it for you, so that you can fight for more belts in less fights. Problem is Sebastian Fundora being the as big a guy as he is, that really puts a kink in the thing, and especially now with him being injured and postponing that fight with Keith Thurman. What are we going to see? What are we going to see next? We're not going to see Boots Ennis and Keith Thurman fight. I mean, you could have it. Boots Ennis is ready to go. Keith Thurman, who's got to fight in a couple of weeks, could do it, right? Because here's the thing: you don't get Stephen Fulton and Shikasi. Drawing a blank here right now, right? But you don't get Stephen Fulton fighting in a couple of weeks. You don't get any of the undercard. Shikasi Foster, thank you, Jesus. You don't get any of the undercard guys fighting now. Fuck it. I think Boots Ennis should come in and save the day. Boots Ennis versus Keith Thurman on 2 weeks' notice.
I quite like it. First of all, I thought, why? But you're right, because the thing is that, a hand-picked opponent who he beat up beat very quickly. Now, that's fair enough, because I watched the Josh Padley and Reese Bellotti fight as well at the weekend, and just badly match made. Because if you're getting Josh and he's done the thing with Shakur Stevenson and he's said he's arrived and now you need to establish him, don't put him in with Reese Bellotti who needs something. Don't put him in with him. Put him in with somebody who he can definitely beat. So that is a fantastic fight, because it's a step up for Boots Ennis. He's a name, and Boots Ennis can beat him. And Boots Ennis is never fighting Terence Crawford, because by the time he gets there, Crawford's gone.
100%. He's done. He's out. And really, at the way this is going, I think you've got a better chance of seeing somebody like Sebastian Fundora moving up into that category and fighting those guys the Beterbievs, the Bivels, the bigger dudes like that, because there's no way in hell that Sebastian Fundora is going to be able to stick around at that weight. He's young now, and you know how it goes, and that's what's going to happen. So Boots Ennis really has to come to terms with the fact that he's going to fight. The best fight for him, in my opinion, is weird. It's weird that you say this, but it's two interim champions would end up fighting each other if he takes a fight with Virgil Ortiz Jr., which I think is a proper fight for Boots to take. If you really want to say to yourself, I'm not handpicking my opponents, and I'm here to fight, and I'm here to unify these belts, and I'm here to, prove that boxing is all I think about, then that's what you need to do. Right?
Yeah, but he'll need that tune up first. That's why the Thurman fight's so good, as you say. Just quickly, Thurman fight, get it done. And then you can say, I'm here now. There is that. No one is going to say to Boots Ennis, no, yeah, you couldn't fight him yet. Oh, you couldn't do it. You need another fight. Most people are going to say, yeah, because I don't detect anybody saying, oh, handpicked opponent, you beat him, so what? What people are saying is, that was great. And no one has said about Eddie Hearn, apart from me, I'm just about to, that he looked ridiculous when he said, this is the best fighter I've ever worked with. He's the best fighter, and all that. He's the best fighter. He doesn't do that, but maybe he will now. But the thing is that no one's saying that Eddie Hearn is overstating the case. There's a nice honeymoon period for Boots. And so he could take that fight and then in a way, I'm not saying that I'm not denigrating Keith Thurman, but a proper fight, as you say, proper fight, a big step up for me now. Thurman was a bit of a baby step, and I've done that. And then if he fails against Thurman, then we know where he is. And people will say to Eddie, wind your neck in, and he'll say, oh, I was wrong. But if he beats Thurman in the way I think he would do, then yeah, any of those fights would work. But that'd be a serious fight.
Yeah. And we know how, injuries can happen. It's his hand. So it could be a lot longer than just a little postponement. Keith Thurman may need to fight as well. Who knows? We've seen it because there's also been news just came out. Good friend of ours, Ryan Rozicki, re-injured his bicep, and now his fight at the end of this month has been postponed again. I mean, so he is certainly, if you follow his socials or anything like that, he is not giving up on it. He says he'll fight this thing till the wheels fall off, and I think that that's fantastic, especially for a guy like him. And I, for one, cannot wait. We wish him all the best. Get better soon. Get healed up. We like to see you guys fight. Same to Sebastian Fundora. We like to see you guys fight. You're exciting fighters. Get out there, get healed up, but let it heal up. Stop trying to feel the pressure from your promoters and everything like that say, hey, you need to get out there faster and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work, but it happens way too often.
It does. And let me just say, I'm just about to put together a podcast on this. There's an interesting piece about Dave Allen. He lost to Makhmudov at the weekend, put up a great, and it was a great fight. And we'll talk more about Makhmudov in a minute. It's a great segue. But I mean, it was just heavy leather, and that was fantastic. And neither fighter looked great, in my view. However, Dave Allen couldn't lose because he's a lovely bloke and tried to get into Makhmudov's head by smiling at him. Extraordinary. Yeah. And he admitted it. I'm trying to do it. It's not working. And there's a piece that I read which came out. It came out yesterday, but it was done on Friday, and it's done in a jokey way at first. But then the piece says, "I wonder whether he was joking." It's Dave Allen saying, "I can't wait to fucking retire." Is the phrase he used. I can't wait to get fat. I can't wait to turn up with my entourage. And he laughs about that. But then he says, "I've had so many fights. I've been beaten quite badly. Can't wait to retire." And I know he was up for the Makhmudov fight, but you just wonder, what if he's thinking he wants to go? And now he's got this success, the Johnny Fisher thing, and you knew he wasn't going to beat Makhmudov. You knew he wasn't. But because he did quite well against him, are people going to say you're getting more fight? I mean, AJ would, if he's looking for a tune-up fight, I mean, he's looking at Dave Allen, isn't he, and saying, "Put you down, mate. That'd be quite fun, and it'll bring the crowds in." So if he's thinking, "Well, I want to retire," and he might be, is it just that people are now saying, "Mate, you can't retire. Your career's back."
You know what? I mean, it could be that, and it could also be how many fights do you have on your deal? Because there's also that part of it. And think about it. We're talking about a different class when you're talking about heavyweights. Now, you say that fight was a good fight, Steve, but I think that's because you watched it with the volume up. There could not have been anything more set up for Dave Allen to just go out there and win. The commentators were on his side, the crowd was on his side, his corner was on his side. Hell, at some points in the fight, I think Makhmudov was probably on his side. And don't kid yourself, there's some indications that would say that the referee might have thrown a couple of favors in there with a couple of like, we need to break this thing up. The taking of the point, okay, that's a little bit borderline, but there was, everything was set up for Dave to win this thing because he's beloved. But sometimes that belovedness can be a detriment. And maybe Dave is like sitting there going, yo, guys, when he said he's top 20 and I'm not good enough to beat him. So, I don't know what I want to do here. And then you see out the corner of his eye, he's looking over, he's like, shit, the boss is telling me I got 17 more of these things. That's when it becomes ridiculous. And he should be allowed to just, I don't think heavyweights should be held to the same kind of contracts as others. I think it should be negotiable after each and every war because they're way different at heavyweight, man.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good showing against Makhmudov, but Makhmudov, I mean, he can't win, can he? Because as you say, set up for Dave Allen. People really like him, and he's spoiling, isn't he? But he could have come out, and he has the ability to come out and to have really put on a show there, Makhmudov, and he didn't. And that, I mean, I think Eddie Hearn said we don't want Makhmudov for AJ because he is a big puncher. But and when you can get Dave Allen, why would you want Makhmudov? But I think Makhmudov didn't look great. No. I mean, zero head movement from either of them. Just come forward and throw bombs. That's not going to work now. That's like Alan the Savage Babbage. Yeah. I enjoy watching him, but you never know what's going to happen. So, I don't think that's not going to work going forward. That's not going to work. And that's probably put a spoke in the wheel of Makhmudov.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. And we're going to still see what happens and what plays out with this heavyweight stuff going forward. Now, big story in the news this week. Before we go here, we got to talk about this thing. It looks like close friend and part-time lover of this show, Jake Paul, is upset at the use of AI, apparently, right? We even got sent one from a fan who sent us a video about Jake being pissed off about this show. I'm not going to air it here because I don't know if we can. We'll probably get pulled for it anyways, because it appears that there's these programs. Okay, there's these programs that you can use, but for some reason, when you're doing some of these posts about Jake Paul, some of them, it won't let you post it unless you pay extra money or whatever, I'm sure. Do you think this whole thing is legit, Steve, or do you think that this is a gigantic marketing plan from Jake and his team himself because he's catching so much heat for getting into a fight with a much smaller fighter?
Well, the fight itself, the more you hear about it, the less. I mean, the seamier it becomes, the odder it becomes. It doesn't seem like that there's tinsel and pyrotechnics. Recently we've had, well, here are the rules, folks. Well, we knew that, and there'll be an AI judge. But what's the point? What's the
So here's
point?
so think about that. If there's going to be an AI judge, doesn't it make a whole, and this is one of the things that we're using. He used it before and it didn't really go over so well, but this is the time that they're actually like, hey, we're using an AI judge, ladies and gentlemen. Is this a little marketing ploy to say, oh, AI can be fun. AI can be fun if you use it in a fun way. This is like sending a bunch of clowns out before the new It movie comes out. This is like, having random zombies sitting in the crowds of sporting events and everybody's going, "Oh my god, did you see that?" But it's all just a marketing ploy for some movie coming out. This is what we've learned. Everything's a freaking psyop nowadays, Steve. And this is what's going on. I think, there's a part of you that has to think when you put on your tinfoil hat that this would be a really good way to implement some stuff. And Jake Paul is of that age and of that category where it's not out of the realm. I don't know. What do you think?
The whole thing, I mean, if we're looking at AI saves the world, then this cheapens AI. Because, I mean, what it does is it says, well, we need to bring it in because it's been done before, but as a fourth judge, hasn't it? So this is the third judge, but we're doing it on an exhibition show in which nothing really fucking matters. Doesn't make any difference. It's not on your record. Makes no difference. Look, this Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis fight. Jake Paul is not controlling this unless it was his idea to have actual fucking clowns on the stage when they did their press conference. That spectacularly backfired. So, all of that, and he looked pissed off, Jake Paul, and all that. He's not controlling this because he can't rile Gervonta Davis because Gervonta Davis doesn't understand what he's doing, probably, for one. A bird. And also, he's not bothered because he couldn't give a shit about boxing anymore. And he thinks boxing's a clown show anyway. You can tell, I think. And so he's not bothered. So Jake Paul can't do anything with this. He's stuck with it now. So the AI thing is just, look at this. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few more announcements of side things like, I'm going to come in on a donkey, that kind of thing. All of that sort of thing. Oh, I'm going to abseil down like Shawn Michaels. I'm going to abseil down and all of that. I just think that it's the more I hear about it, the worse it sounds to me. It stinks.
Yeah, I'm not a big proponent of AI to begin with right now because I don't think we're near where it needs to be. And I think that there's far too much access to it. And there's too many villains out there in the world.
Yeah.
There really are too many villains who are going to use all of this technology for the powers of evil.
Yes, and the thing is that if you're talking about AI music, and I reviewed an AI rock album, but you need to be able to program the fucking thing, and you need some talent to be able to do that. So I don't know how it works. I don't want to know, but you can't press a button and just say classic rock and it gives you something brilliant. So the album I listened to was it was usually it was loud guitars, quiet verse, loud chorus, singer sounds like Chris Cornell, Take Me Home. That was it for every song. And I just thought, you don't know what rock is. So you need to put the stuff in. You need to put good stuff in to get good stuff out. Which is why when I'm eating chocolate, I'm getting fat out, and I know that.
Speaking of which, I mean, shout out this guy right here. Huh?
Punchlines like pressure. Hey yo. Hey yo. Hey yo. Hey yo. Hey yo. Punchlines like.
Everybody, go check out that Laz the Third stuff. It's all about our friend Steve Swift. Steve, as always, an absolute honor, an absolute pleasure. We are in Halloween month, so go out there, see some horror flicks, watch some stuff. I just watched a thing on the BTK killer earlier today. Fantastic stuff. Do yourself a favor, go check it all out. Steve, what are you going to be reviewing over World Weary Guy 1?
Well, I went out at the weekend on Saturday and watched some Brit Rest.
Yes.
So
that's what
there's lots of different kinds of Brit Rest. So there's Brit Rest promotions and all of that, and they pattern American stuff. There are some here in the north of the Britain, the north of Britain, where nothing ever grows. They have several promotions here, but this was a theatre. I've played it, folks, and they just brought wrestlers on. So they must have paid somebody who knows local wrestlers, but it was set on a stage, so you couldn't do three sides of the ring. So everything had to be out. I've never seen that before, and they knew exactly what they were doing. It was full of kids. The kids were screaming and shouting, running around. Not that they were disinterested; they were just fucking angry. All those heels. And there was a school teacher type called Mr. Williams, who was a heel manager, and he was saying, "Sit down, do your homework," and all of that. Kids hated that. It was beautifully done, and I loved it from beginning to end.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's nothing more fun. There's nothing more fun than any of these, like, family events, and you can get away with that at pro wrestling. You can't really get away with that at MMA events or boxing events or Thai boxing events, kickboxing, any of the wrestling stuff. The adrenaline is way different. And trust me, I did professional wrestling for 26 plus years, so I get it. The feeling that you get from those kids, because I've also been in wrestling tournaments, I've been in MMA tournaments, I've been in those karate tournaments, all those things. The adrenaline from the kids is way different at a pro wrestling show. Even the kids get it. So if they're getting it, just go have fun with it, man. There's no need to be a jack off. There's no need to be a tough guy. It's a show and everybody's having a fun time. I, for one, think that's fantastic. You got to see that, Steve. That's so cool.
It's brilliant. And I also was delighted because one of my favorite classic rock singers, who wished my wife a happy birthday recently, Graham Bonnet. I forgot his name then for a minute. What the fuck? Graham Bonnet is coming back, and he's got a covers album out, but he's released a single. I won't tell you what it is. Go and have a look at it. It's a classic Rainbow track. He's still got the bellow. It's still there. And even though he doesn't go up to those high notes, some of them I thought, are you going to get this? Oh, effortless. Just fantastic. I've seen it recently where he was struggling a little bit when you see things on YouTube. That, I just thought, the man's in his 70s, isn't he? It's like Rob Halford. Extraordinary.
Unbelievable. Well, listen, Rainbow is one of the greatest rock bands of all time. And if it wasn't for them, I mean, you wouldn't have Deep Purple.
Yeah. We'll talk. We'll
that.
We'll talk about that. We'll have a talk off camera.
That's right. All right, Steve. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds like I'm about to get it handed to me off the camera here, and as soon as we're done with this, so that only means that there's only one thing that I know how to do, and that's remember that I got to remind Steve each and every week that Wu-Tang is for the children. So go easy on me, but I will remember to tuck my chin.